Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album from Tinashe, Joyride. You know, at this point, it's hard not to feel like Tinashe should be bigger, at least in the mainstream. And believe it or not, it's got absolutely nothing to do with my opinion on her music. In 2014, I didn't really like Aquarius. And while I found 2016's Night Ride a modest improvement, there was more R&B I liked that year. Hell, more R&B I liked in both years. And in a sense, it's hard to escape the feeling that Tinashe might have fallen victim to a peculiar phenomenon I've observed with rising R&B starlets. They get their one big mainstream crossover hit on the Hot 100, their breakthrough album gets critical acclaim, hits a bunch of year-end lists, and then if they don't have that guaranteed follow-up smash on the next project, the interest dries up in record time, even in comparison to a lot of other genres. And even if it might turn out those later projects are better or more interesting. And even then, Tinashe's on a major label. You would think there would be more of a marketing push to break her into the spotlight or get her on the radio or a streaming playlist, but her sales have not been great. It would be a damn tragedy if she released her strongest project to the weakest public response yet. Now granted, I did have concerns given how much Joyride was delayed and that it had all the guest stars she hadn't needed on Night Ride, and it's not like Offset, Future, Ty Dolla $ign, and French Montana are known for consistent quality. But okay, given the years of development time, there had to be something potent or interesting on Joyride, right? Well, okay, I'm gonna try and be as charitable as possible to this project, because let's set aside any possible thematic ties to Night Ride. The car references, they've always been peripheral at best. I'm not judging Joyride on not revealing any sort of deeper thematic depth to the last album, even if it was originally intended as a part 2 a few years back. I'm treating it like a leaner, standalone project where you can tell the label is pulling out about half of the stops to get this to market and just sell something. Although even though with some of the guest stars, it might be a losing battle at this point. And you know what? Saying all that, while there are still problems with this project that have sadly been consistent with pretty much all of Tinashe's records, this might be the first that I've come close to actually liking, if only for certain deep cuts that show some glimpses of what could be or what might have been. And the fact that I'm singling out individual songs more than anything on this album, it's indicative of the first of those consistent issues. Despite Tinashe showing arguably the most vocal range and diversity that she has ever brought to the table, her production is all over the place in terms of sound and quality. Now, some people have highlighted this as Tinashe not seeming to have a distinctive identity, but as a singer, that doesn't seem to be true on Joyride. More than ever, her restrained but elastic cooing allows her to bend her vocal range from chill sensuality to a slightly more ragged and expressive intensity. And depending on how her multi-tracking is arranged, she's arguably more effective in this lane than she has ever been before. Hell, across the best songs on this album, you could argue it is the vocal arrangement that's given Tinashe the most vocal personality she's ever had, especially when the harmonies are more lush and delicate. If I was recommending this album at all, it would be for those vocal arrangements. But the larger problem is that, just like on Night Ride, none of the assorted producers across this record gives her anything close to consistent vocal production, and when you factor in guest performers as well, and an increasingly broad selection of styles, it makes for a performer who does have a defined presence but seems less distinct in the context of the album. From the super clean vocal pickup of No Drama, Me So Bad, and Faded Love, likely to facilitate some guest verses that really add nothing, to the oddly grainy pickup from Stuck With Me, which features Little Dragon in an arrangement that's not really so much clashing, but not really mixing well either. Even where Tinashe gets multi-tracking, the fidelity of her tone is all over the place. And sometimes you get arrangements that can surpass a flattened filter like on No Contest, or on the title track, which easily has some of the most momentum, but it's got this really ugly, oily film on top of the synth line. But Tinashe honestly sounds her best on the closing piano ballad Fires and Flames, where she gets the space and the light touch for the smoother tones to really come through, and she sounds great on it. And I won't deny that some of this might have come down to production budgets, especially when it comes to those glassy layers that get tacked on to He Don't Want It, or especially the interlude Ain't Good For Ya with all those ugly flutes, or how her voice tops out in the former song. That's just bad mixing, and there's not many excuse from that from a major label record. Hell, if you want an example of slightly rougher vocal production, how it can work, look at the dank bluesy vibe of Salt. The vocal line is a little bit flatter, sure, but it still opens up just enough to let Tinashe's richer lower lower register come through, which means there's not much of an excuse for the spots that do feel as slapdash as they do. And really, I'm focusing so much on the vocal arrangements and production because beyond those, the record can feel pretty thin. Muted synthesizers, occasionally hints of liquid guitar or a violin on the title track, the trap beats that nearly all sound kind of flat and lacking better fidelity or blending, and songwriting that sadly doesn't seem to add up to a lot. That's the other thing. Believe it or not, what actually convinced me Tinashe does have something of a defined identity, it's the songwriting, because even if I find nearly all these songs kind of lacking in greater detail or feeling underwritten, she has multiple hooks where she just sings la 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 or stutters words in order to fill up space in the bar. It is at least consistent in that lane, both in the writing style and the subject matter. It's a little bit single-minded in its pursuit of hookups, sure, but at its best, Tinashe seems at least kind of self-aware how this freewheeling approach can have consequences, and she doesn't shy away from facing some of them either. From the expectations of disaster on Stuck With Me to the genuine tension that comes with Keep Your Eyes on the Road and the title track. It's a really good intro to the record. What gets kind of interesting is when you get songs with a little bit more detail, like Salt, where it becomes pretty apparent the relationship was not really built to last, but she doesn't want that ex being a dick to her in the aftermath. Or take Fires and Flames, where the partner is self-destructive and she's trying to coax him down for one last night together, but you also get the impression between the lines that she's probably going to wind up leaving in the end, maybe even before getting that final night. Now, granted, I'm relying a lot more on vocal personality to convey more details and subtlety than the actual words written themselves, and to Tinashe's credit, outside of the goofy as hell hook on Me So Bad, she never really embarrasses herself in the writing, but what I'd argue hurts her more is that without those stronger pop hooks or that presence, the basics just aren't as gripping to a lot of people, and you find yourself looking for more complexity that might not really be there. But as a whole, okay, look, it would be very easy for me to pan this album, as a lot of people already have. It's underwritten, the production can feel kind of slapdash, the guest appearances add very little, and you could argue that 3 albums in, Tinashe has not really succeeded in finding a distinctive lane for herself in R&B. And that's probably all true, but at the same time, Joyride was the first Tinashe album that had more than just one really good song, and gave me the impression that if she landed with one consistent producer who knew how to give her vocal arrangement some real space, we could have a legitimately really good R&B album. And as it is, those vocal harmonies did enough to notch this up to a 6 out of 10 for me. I'm serious, I'm not kidding with that. I do think this project is pretty decent. There isn't really that many duds, and it does show more promise than I think some people have given it credit. But I also really wouldn't call it essential, and if you're not sold on Tinashe, it's hard to argue this would convince you otherwise. But hey, if you're curious, what the hell, give it a listen. Might surprise you. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know I'm kind of lukewarm on this, but yeah, there actually are some good cuts. I think it's arguable probably the most I've enjoyed a Tinashe album, and hey, if you want to buy it, links down there below. And I got the poll up there. I know some people have been pretty hard on it. I wouldn't be, but I'm curious how you all disagree with me there. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. If you guys want to get involved in my scheduling process or support this channel, link to my Patreon is right over there, where 3 times a week you guys get to vote on my schedule, and once a week for the higher tier contributors, you guys get to add albums, movies, or even a top 10 list to that schedule. Want to see a schedule? It's on my Instagram, link down there below. Just keep in mind, my Patreon has shifted from a per video to a per month exercise, so there's a lot more opportunities available for the same price. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.